Hello to our listeners of What a Hell of a Way to Dad. This is an ad for the podcast you're listening to, and it is the only ad for the podcast that you're listening to that you will hear on this show. We have a little something called Patreon, patreon.com/hellofaWayToDie. It is linked down below. The deal is you give us $5 a month and we give you bonus content every month, every week, as much as we can. It will also give you access to 8 years of our bonus content back catalog. But beyond just extra episodes, you'll also get exclusive video content, discounts in the store, the ability to vote on future Zoo Crew episodes, and access to the Discord that we share with Lions Led by Donkey. You can also check out the store at whatahellofawaytodad.com. There you'll find patches, stickers, pins, handmade items, and whatever things I find at a secondhand store that interest me. We appreciate your patronage in whatever way that you can give it to us, as well as your feedback. If there's anything that you want to hear on this show, please let us know. Sergeant Joker at hellofawaytodie.com. Once again, that's patreon.com/hellofawaytodie and whatahellofawaytodad.com. Thank you and enjoy the show.
That's where these military influencers now, like the same guys that, if Black Rifle Coffee didn't exist when it existed and attempt to exist now, they have to do what those same brands are doing. And that is, rather than doing like the LOL, lols, epic bacon Reddit type shit, that all of these people got their start on mostly. They're pivoting from, the guy, the picture that comes to mind is like the bearded guy with the smoke grenade going off in his hand, chugging a fucking can of beer, which is like, the portrait that these dudes all jerked off to, like Mishima did in that one book. But you can't do that anymore. You have to get involved in the culture war. You can't just be the veteran who does dumb shit on the internet. You have to be an alpha male alt-right dude. And that is where they're all pivoting. I mean, they're all following a tried and true fucking pipeline. I mean, a pipeline is a pipeline for a reason. Most of these dudes are parodying the same shit before, but now it's just, look at me shoot this machine gun and say a slur against trans people, instead of like, watch at me shoot this machine gun and then pitch you a coffee brand. Because now instead of there being a coffee brand or a whiskey brand or this thing or that thing, it's like weird M4 mods or a podcast that is probably on Rumble,
Yeah, and I will say there are some halfway decent military influencers out there. One Punch Dad and Mandatory Fun Day are two people who, military, and they do military jokes, but they're not complete assholes about it, and they're not involved in the culture war. And in fact, we'll say, no, everybody, if you want to join the army, you should be able to. And if you want to,
like Terminal Lance was like literally got so popular that the Marine Corps kind of had to embrace it.
Yeah.
And he remained normal.
Yeah. I mean, for the most part, he didn't become, none of them became this, none of them became this, like, I have to be hateful to be able to do this. And
that's what it comes down to, is harnessing hate to be your brand, which people like Tim Kennedy, people like Jake Shields have done. I mean, Shields, from my understanding, isn't a veteran, but I mean, same in crowd, same thing that, Black Rifle did, where they went from just being the annoying coffee brand that you really hated seeing on the shelf to just being like outright full of bigotry, on top of allegedly running some pretty illegal business practices.
A little bit.
Allegedly.
Yeah, well, Black Rifle suffered because they decided to go public with the brand, and when you go public,
full of themselves.
Yeah, well, look, you can do that. You can go public, and you have to clean up your image a little bit. And they tried to do that, and everybody was just like, "What do you mean this isn't my racism coffee anymore? I need to go to the other racism coffee companies."
Then there's another racism coffee company that literally, I remember when it happened, because like Black Rifle went public, they had to clean up their image. Everybody started calling them woke, of course. And then there's this other brand called Stocking Mill Coffee, who I only remember from way back in the day. I think when your Dick Gun merch came out for Hell of a Way, and me and Nate, like back when Nate was like fully in prime posting mode, like we were fucking with them, and they were nobodies back then. But now they've picked up the slack as the racism coffee company.
Yeah, fully embraced it. So, hey, everybody's got to make a buck. Let's talk about some of the key fabrications that were in this. So this was all kind of brought out on the Anti-Hero podcast, which is hosted by a Delta Force guy. There's a lot of these podcasts I've noticed of these special operator guys, and they all have
so much for silent professionals, guys.
I know. Don't shut the fuck up.
I mean, look, like, I don't hate on him for it. I host a podcast for a living.
Sure.
But like, we can drop the silent professional part of it. It's fine.
Yeah. Well, look, I like, Jack Murphy has been on my show, and I like him. He's former Special Forces, and he's, but he's also very, progressive and likes people and very anti-racist, and so there are
a unicorn.
Yeah, I know. He's really great. He and I talked about Dungeons and Dragons most of the time. That's what. See, this is, and the idea that we came up with was that anybody transitioning out of Special Forces, whether that be Green Berets, Delta Force, Navy SEALs, needs to be given like a personality going away pack. Like here, you're leaving. Right, you're leaving the Army. Here's all of the transitional stuff that you need to learn about getting a job and doing this, but also here is a box of unpainted Warhammer 40K figures.
Yeah, you need to find a hobby that has nothing to do with guns.
Yeah, find a hobby that is quiet and you can do inside of your house. Here's if you don't. You could pick. You can get the Warhammer 40K. You can get this milk crate full of old vinyl records. You can get some collectible stamps, something that is going, maybe a woodworker, here's woodworking tools, do something with your hands.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of these fabrications on the Anti-Hero podcast. Let's see. He claims he was hit with shrapnel requiring medical attention. However, his DD-214 shows no Purple Heart, and there's no records or evidence of this injury.
Okay.
That's a weird one to try. Gimme. Yeah, that's a weird one to try to go with because DD-214 has all of that shit on it.
I mean, there can be errors in a DD-214. For example, for some reason, mine has an error on it. It's nothing that big, but errors do occur. Like, I'm certainly not missing a Purple Heart or something.
Sure, and if I was missing one, I would get it put on. I would talk to somebody about that.
Yeah, like I'm missing my combat action badge from my DD-214. I have all the certificates from it and everything from when I was awarded it. I don't see the need. But also, it's because it's not a Purple Heart where you get, extra benefits. Like, for instance, if you don't have a Purple Heart in your record, and not to mention medical records showing you're wounded, you can't claim disability for those wounds.
Yeah.
There's trickle-down effects to not having that on your record that you would like to rectify. A cab is nothing.
Yeah. This is... Look, and I understand he's probably making a lot of money, writing books and everything, but I also am not going to turn down $1,000 a month from the government.
Yeah, I'm willing to bet Tim Kennedy is not worried too much about like the disability he might miss out on. Right. I'm willing to accept that.
All right, so he claims that he operated independently without a supervisor, when in reality he was the most junior member of the team and directly supervised.
Yeah, you're always fucking supervised, man.
There's always a lieutenant. There's always a sergeant.
There's always a captain. And if you're a captain, there's always a fucking major. Nobody's ever unsupervised. The only time you're ever unsupervised is when you crank one out in the porta potty.
Yeah.
You hope. You hope.
Yeah, and even like you don't operate independently ever. Like I know that even the Special Forces teams use some sort of a battle buddy system because like if one of you if you're out and like, oh, I turned my ankle and fucked it up, you need a backup guy to help you out. Like
it's not a fucking Jason Bourne film. Nobody's just wandering out in, Taliban country on their own. I don't know if he was in Afghanistan or Iraq, but like there's no such thing as a one-man operation. It's fucking stupid. I mean, unless you're Robert Bales, that's what he did.
Yeah. Claims he verbally dressed down the ground force commander. Reality, this never happened, and Tim had to record an apology video admitting it was false.
Nice. Yeah, of course it didn't happen. Yeah. I'm sure. Like, was he an officer or an NCO? I have no idea.
I think he was enlisted.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure an enlisted guy dressing down a general is going to have some repercussions upon your career, special forces or no.
You know what's going to be on that DD-214 is the Gomar.
Yeah.
General order
of reprimand. General order of reprimand. Yeah.
That's when a full star general writes down that you're a bad person and then you never get to gain rank again.
I know someone who has one because they have guested on my podcast.
Oh, no.
And I can tell you they have still not been promoted. And it has been 9 years.
I served with a guy who had a Gomar, and he was an 11-year E5. And he also yelled at somebody who he shouldn't have yelled at. But he regretted it quite a bit and regretted it for the rest of his military career. So claims he threw 25 grenades into one building. And
okay. How are you carrying 25 grenades, Tim? Did you just have a rucksack, an assault pack full of grenades? More grenades than a platoon normally carries? Just dangling off your body?
Yeah, and grenades aren't something that you can be like, hey, let's chuck 4 or 5 of them. You throw one and then you get the fuck away, and then you come back to it. So
I mean,
and I don't even know what
like 25 separate grenades, but still, that begs the question of how did you carry 25 separate grenades on your person?
Yeah, that's that is first off incredibly dangerous, and second off, I don't like if you didn't get them with the first 3, you're done. Move on. Like I don't know what you're doing here at this point. If 25 a grenade will kill the fuck out of you. Like
especially inside a building.
Yeah, like
grenades aren't as impressive as people like to think they are. I remember being incredibly let down the first time I saw one go off, but in an enclosed space, it's a bad fucking day.
Yeah, be within 25 meters of one, and you will get fucked up.
And I don't remember what exactly. This is something that Nate would probably know, like how many grenades an infantryman is supposed to carry in a standard combat load, because I was not an infantryman. But I know when I was doing infantry operations, I never carried more than 2.
Yeah, you carry a couple.